Hi, my name's Jeff Rhodes, and this is another video that's loosely based, in this case, on my Creating Business Applications with Office 365 book. So I hope you picked that up. But in today's video, we're going to talk about Power BI, which is covered in that book. But rather than do an example there, I'm going to go over to another one of my applications called TrackerNet. And it's a learning management system, and it has its own kind of reporting. Let's see if I can get an example of it, and I'll show you in a minute. And what I want to do is show how to connect Power BI to it and set up your own reports. So that should be kind of fun. So let me show you the app real quick. This is TrackerNet, and I'm going to log in as an administrator. So if I'm a student, I can go into my reports, but for this purposes, we're trying to go more in what we call the reporter access, where you can look at different ones. So it's broken out in different students versus lessons and so forth. But the example we're going to do today is effectively both the student report and the lesson report. So I'll just show you how it works here. So in this, we use a custom grid and then the Microsoft Report Viewer application. So basically, I can select everybody, and it remembered I was doing this a minute ago, so remembered from my big long list of reports that I want to do lesson information. Then I can do some dates, which aren't relevant in this report. And the way we do it in Tracker, which I wrote a number of years ago, is we go out and query the database and get it back and use the Microsoft Report Viewer control. So we can kind of go in by, this is each of the lessons, and then go into each student, so this is like all the students that went through the different lessons that they're in. So here's the student and then each lesson. And then the other side of that is if we go to lessons, and same kind of thing, it remembers my student information, and we go in and look at it. In that case, it'll list all my lessons and then each student inside of it. And the way that we do it in Tracker is we actually, to make it extensible, is we actually do the query. So in essence, is what's happening is those of you into .NET, you kind of recognize that as a string format, and we pass in things like which lessons they select or whatever. So I can take this, and first of all, let's go to Management Studio so we can make sure we get our thing right. And there's different ways to do it. I like to come in and do it as a view, and then I'm going to paste that in, and then I got to get rid of. So I don't want this. Instead of filtering it ourselves, we're going to go ahead and use slicers in Power BI. So I don't need that. And then I don't need this bit at the end, which I forget exactly what it's doing. So we can try and see if we got it right, and we can say verify, all right, and then we can run it. So we see we get 330, and we get some stuff. So basically, if you look at what's going on, I've got different tables. So I've got an organization table, and then I've got a students table where we're picking some stuff out of there. And then I've got a student lesson information table, which has things like their status and when they completed it. And then it links up to a lesson ID in here and a student ID, and then I get like what they call the lesson long name and the description. So I'm merging all those. Now in Power BI, we could actually let it do the joins and everything, but in this case, I just want to copy this whole one over. So we're going to just copy that over and see what we can do with that data. So let's go over to Power BI. So I've got a blank one right now. So first thing I'm going to do is get data SQL Server, and actually I didn't want to copy that yet. I'll come back. The way you do it here is you come in and you can say connect, and that'll give you your server name. And then I'm using Windows authentication, but you could have a username password as well. So since I'm copying that, I'll come back in a minute and do that. And then we'll put the name of our database, which I call Tracker6. And I can give, in the advanced options, I can give the SQL statement. So let's go back over here and copy that. Oops, didn't work. Let's try it again. There we go. Got to give it the focus. And I'll put all that in. And if I messed it up, it'll tell me that it can't do it. And I say OK. So you can see that's a good sign. Looks like that. And I go ahead and just say load. So that's kind of nice. It gave us all our column names. So I could start working on it right now. But let's go ahead and do some things with it. So main thing I like to do first is just rename things, so that, because every time I use it, if I rename it now, then I don't have to keep renaming it each time I use that column. So I'll just do a couple renames in here. So I'll just call this lesson instead of lesson long name. And then I could make a custom column, but it turns out I did that in SQL already. So I'm just going to change this to status. Now notice our date. So I have it as a date time, but it really we're only storing the date part. So I'm going to just I'm going to rename it first. Oops. Oh, what did I do? Hit something there. Okay, I had a little bit of a hiccup, so I went ahead and saved it, and when I right-clicked, I did something weird. So in any event, let's rename this, and so I'm just going to call it first completion. And the other thing I'm going to do is change the type so it's just a date, since I'm not using that anyway. So I'll do this again here. Most recent completion, and again change type to date. Then I don't need a bunch of these columns. One thing I did want to point out is I could have made my own custom column with the last name first or the first name last, and I'm going to want to use the last name first. But since it's already there, no sense making a new one. I did that with SQL in that query. So I'm just going to name this student as well. And in many of my videos, I make some custom columns, but these are all fine. The only thing that will be useful now, I do have a lesson ID and a student ID, but I like to have an index column, and I didn't have one here. So I'll go ahead and add an index from 1. And I'll just leave it as an index. So I could try to rename it, but that would be fine. So let's go in, close and apply here. So that'll give us our first one. Now, if we go back, you'll see one thing that I like to do in the actual report is had a logo. So let's go ahead and just do that. It's not something we do every day. So let's add an image. And I'll have to go find that on my machine. So let me do that real quick. All right, images, go all the way down. So there's a ping file. So we'll start with that. Just put it up there. And then I'm going to do a lot of slicers, because what I want to do is drill down into the different ones. So actually, let's start though with our pie charts, and then I'll do the slicers. So let's do that, and I think I'll actually put this down here at the bottom for now. And I'm going to want to put a table. So I'll put that here. Maybe make it a little bit higher, something like that. And I'll put one kind of, oh, I did it. I do that sometimes. I don't click off of it, and then I just changes whatever I had first. So let's try that again. Look, I hadn't filled it out much yet. Make that the same height like that. And let's do a couple more pie charts. We'll do one about like that. And maybe copy that. See if we can move that over. Yeah, we'll try that. All right, so what do we want to put on it? I think on this left one, I'll put the lesson. Remember how I named it from lesson name, so I'll put the lesson here. And this is where I can use that index. So I want to put the count. Oh, and I'll call this number of students. Copy that because we need it. One thing that we can do to make sure it's all working, I'm going to want to add one later anyway, a data card. So let's go ahead and put that in here now. Put it down right over this guy. And we'll put our index in there too. And put the count, rename number of students. Okay, there we go. And if I remember, if we go back to our SQL Server, you can see we have 330 student record, lesson record entry. So far so good. That's looking good. And then I'll make this guy, I'll put the student on here. Again, put the index. And I'll rename that. That's why it's nice to put it in the clipboard. And this guy over here, we'll put this as a status. Because one of the things we'll want to do is say, okay, how did people do? Did they pass? Did they fail? And we'll want to drill down on that. So we'll just put status and again put that index in here. Count and rename. All right, so we're starting to get some things. I'll collapse that a little bit right now so we get a little bit bigger. So you can see we already can get some if we click on like a particular lesson. Now we're going to do this. I don't really like how the default filtering, so we'll cover that in a minute. And I'm just going to rename this. I'll call it student lesson info. And then I find it easiest is just to create another one of these. It's a quick way to get in and out of whatever we've clicked on there. So let's add our slicers here, and then we'll start building it out. So we're almost done, getting closer at least. So let's put a slicer, and first one we'll put is lesson. And then I like to change these to drop down, so we'll make that nice and small like that. Let's copy that and paste another one. And we'll make that organization. So we can drill down in our organization. And then we'll do another one. And we'll call that student. There we go. And then another thing I like is, let me save this because we've done a fair amount of work. I called it Tracker Report here. I don't see it. I thought I added it before, but I'm going to import from the marketplace. There's one called Text Editor, which I like a lot. Or Text Filter, it's actually called. There we go. And I add that. There we go. And what that's nice is it allows us, so let me click off, it allows us to search for it. So I'm going to put student on there as well. And we get a nice little search box. I'll show you that in a minute, but actually I'll show it to you now. Make that a little smaller if I can. There we go. So like one of the guys is Hagar, Sammy Hagar. I'm a big music fan. So if I go like that, come on. I guess Hager's not in there. Let's try Sean. There we go. Oh, we can't see who it is because I haven't done my table yet, but there's Sean Mullins you can see over there. It's another one of my music guys I like. So that's kind of a nice one. And last filter I'll put in there, last slicer, is let's put the most recent date in there. I always like slicers on dates, and then if we're looking for some people what they've done, this is kind of old data, so here we go. That's not too bad. Maybe move that up a little bit, and I can probably make a little bit, and make this. There we go. Last thing I want to do is our table, and if we go back to our report, see that's basically what we want to do. But we're going to put the lesson in, then we got student organization status and that kind of stuff. So for the table, we just start adding in stuff in the order that we want it. So we got lesson, we got student. Actually, we may want organization next in this case. Let's go organization, then student. And again, remember how I like to use that trick and come back in here, and that way I'm not just, I guess since I had the thing, I can say erase. There we go. And we get it back. And we've got like most recent completion date. Click on there first. And you notice you get it where it splits it all out in a quarter. I don't like that. So I click on that. I also don't like see the default. So let's fix that real quick. We'll save. You can go over to this, click on that, go over to modeling and just change the date format, and I'll go ahead and do the most recent, the other one. There we go. Now when we come back, it's how we want it. Most recent completion, we'll go ahead and put the first completion, put that first, again, click on it. And we'll put the score in. Oh, and I was going to edit that, but I didn't, but that's all right. So we'll just rename that. Just call it score. And we'll put, it's got like a cumulative time we can put in there. I'll rename that too, because I could have renamed it earlier, but I'll just put it time like that. All right, so it's looking pretty good. So we can come in here and maybe look at a couple organizations, hold down the control key, and we get some edits there. So that's looking pretty good. But one thing when I mentioned a bit earlier that I don't really like is if we click on like exam engine here, it starts showing these little filters there with these little circles, and I never really know what that means, and that's not how I like it. So let's look at how we fix that. So what I like to do instead is when I click here, I want to filter these. So if this is a lesson, I only want to show the students who are in that lesson there. So what we do is we click on the thing we want to do, and we come over here to I forget where to do it now. Oh, we come up here. Hold on, now I've forgotten where to do it. I'll pause for a second. All right, I'm back. That was the format tab I was looking for. So I've clicked on here, and then I say edit interactions. And notice what happens in each one of these has a little, let me get away from, let's try that again. So edit interaction, and then I roll my mouse on, and so it's sitting there on. It doesn't really give me a tooltip, but I want to change it over here so that it filters it. Oh, let's try it again. So I roll over and I change it to filter. Yeah, so it's kind of hard. So it highlights as the default, but you want to change it to filter. So I want to change that one to filter. And it's a little odd because they kind of move around here. So you got to go. Let's try it again. So that one I've changed, and this one, that's filter. It's kind of hard when these move around. So let's play with it. Let's trick on this one. And again, it's mainly between these pie charts that we want to change it on. So we want to change that one. Yeah, I've seen that before sometimes where it's hard to do it. So we'll fix it. Let's just make this one smaller right now so we get off of it. So we'll turn this off again. Get off the page. Click on that, edit interactions. There we go. And turn it off again just so we're sure we're doing which one we're doing. We'll click that. That one's on filter. This one's not. Turned off again. Click here. Go there so that. Turn it there. Turn it there. Okay. Sweet. And now we'll put this back where it was. So let's try it out. So we come in. We click on a particular Beatles quiz. I'm not getting totally what I want there. Okay, so we get completed. You come into failed, passed, failed, all these adjust. So we can see the people who passed or failed. Oops. Go back over here. There we go. And we can click over here on the different one, and that shows you all the people who were in that particular lesson and what they did. So we've like filtered each one down. So there's one other thing, this score, it wants to add it up. So that doesn't really make any sense because there's no way that I can tell to easily make it put the average, which is what we'd like. So we'll just turn off that score. So, been going for a little bit, so let's review. What we've got is we've taken a SQL Server database, we've done a particular query, or we could have done a stored procedure and gotten the data that we want, made it a visualization, and then now we can drill down, we can limit it to what we're looking for. So if we wanted to search for a particular student, we wanted to see what did Jimmy Buffett do, we could limit it there, see that he completed everything, or see what he did on a particular lesson, get that, we could export it out to Excel and so forth. So fairly useful thing. And then if we have Office 365, we can publish that out, view it out in the browser, and it's got a pretty nice functionality. So I will leave that today. I will hope that that's helpful, and we'll come back shortly for some more videos. Thank you.